If you guys wouldn't mind, if you got to use a restroom quick or grab a quick drink or anything else to snack on, we're going to go ahead and get started here in 5 minutes. So if you wouldn't mind, do that or make your way to your seat, please.
If it wasn't planned, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, there's so much to that. Probably more than we have to do. But there's so much to that. There's so much fun. And then all that food so lady that brought us is going to work tomorrow. She's got to at least you got to make it. Yeah.
Is Madison Hosteller here? Madison Hosteller, anywhere in here? Katie Swery? Logan Cantus. Robert Bartman. Alyssa Deegan. Brooke Graham. William Wagler. Stephen Miller. Joe Miller. Allison Durr. All right, we'll go through and do a couple more of those here in a little bit. With that being said, though, we're going to kick off our first afternoon session here. Obviously, I don't think he really needs an introduction other than Randy Jacobs is up next, and he's going to talk a little bit about our partners over the years and lead into our next speaker.
Thank you, RJ. And like it's been said several times again, thank everybody for coming out and taking time out of your day to join us. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces, and it's great. The crowd is tremendous, and I couldn't be happier to stand up here and see everybody here, I can tell you that. For those of you that don't know, Paul Jr. talked about generation and how this younger generation really doesn't like to work. But there's two young fellas that are in here today, and I'm sure there's more, that's total opposite. A week ago, RJ spent 2 days at a conference in Columbus at Kalmbach's conference. And you know, he's been telling me he wanted Paul Jr. to come and speak for quite some time, but my wife and I, semi-retired, my wife's fully retired. I've been in Florida for the last 3 months. I got home Tuesday. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if everything was going to be arranged. I figured it would be. I thought everything was in good hands. And I get home and I said, well, what do we need to do? He said, Dad, what do you mean? Everything is done. Everything is ready. I said, you mean I don't have to do anything? Nope, just show up, Dad. So that speaks a lot for this generation that we're talking about. And a lot of times we don't think they work. And I've said to people just since visiting here last evening and today, I really never knew how much RJ was paying attention. Was he paying attention? You know, he was a kid that was outside. He would come to the barn a lot. He showed the horses. But I still really never knew if he paid attention. And over the last few years, you know, I started giving him more responsibility. And we know he was a delivery boy, he worked in the warehouse. He was a salesman for me, and then we brought him inside. And to come home and find everything in good hands, I know he's had help. We talk about team. You know, the team that, and I've told everybody, if I didn't have the team around me, you people, all of you, all my staff, we wouldn't be where we are today. But him in charge and the team that he has prepared all of this again for us. So I couldn't be prouder of my son. I know my wife says the same thing. We're very, very proud of him. And like I said, I believe last year, I'm not going away. I'm still here. And we talked every day, if not once, maybe a dozen times every day. I'm like, RJ, I'm in the middle of a pickleball game. Please call me later. And he's like, Dad, when you get a minute, would you please call me back? So we still communicate all the time. And it's just been great. We've been able to relax and enjoy. And with that, I talk about, you know, the partners that we've had. And a lot of you know, kind of how it all got started. You know, years ago when I bought DAC, going on 16 years now. And there's dealers in here. I know Reuben Miller brought up some old pamphlets to me last night and shared with me when he became a dealer, practically when the company started. And there's other dealers in here the same way. But when I came on board as an owner, I wanted to take DAC to the next level. And I told all of you, you know, I'm not going to change the world. I don't want to turn it upside down. I want it to continue to grow and flourish serve you people, and I was still feeding and training horses at the time, and so it's definitely, again, we've set another record in 2023, and we're on track right now to set another record again. It's amazing, but again, it's all about the team, the people all of us have surrounded ourselves with. We're very fortunate and very blessed, all of us that are here today. But when I came on, like I said, we had some situations that I really wasn't sure how to get taken care of, and that led me into, my all-tech relationship there with Dr. Lyons and Russell, and I got in contact with Dr. Duran, and next thing you know, we get in contact with Tanya, Performance Horse Nutrition, and we've been so fortunate to be involved with Performance Horse Nutrition and to have their expertise. I think Tanya's probably done meetings for just about all of you in here, the dealers that are in here. You know her knowledge. She's a great speaker. Her talk earlier today, was tremendous. I still today love to sit and listen to her talk and learn something every time. But, they brought us to Kemet, just all of our partners along the way. They introduced us to people along the way, and they know, our vision is to continue to not only grow, but educate and keep us at the leading edge, at the top of our game. And everybody knows, I show horses for a living. I'm a very competitive person. My son was involved in sports. He's very competitive. I'm playing pickleball now. I got to win the damn pickleball game, So my wife, there's times she say, "Can't we quit competing all the time?" But again, I want to take it to the next level. RJ wants to take it to the next level, and he's sure on his way to doing so. He's surrounded himself now with Paul Kombach Jr., and I respect them so much, and the quality behind this. If you guys ever get a chance to go and visit and get a tour of the Kombach facility, again, you'll understand. I've always said that, about all tech, and it's just, again, all the people and the partners that we've surrounded ourselves with. We're very fortunate and very blessed to be involved and to have those people backing us and beside us, working right beside us every step of the way. So we've been very, very blessed. So without continue to go on about that, and again, I just appreciate all the partners and all you people that are here. I want to talk a little bit about our next speaker, and we're so fortunate to have this speaker come along. She spoke to us, I think, we're pretty sure 10, 11 years ago at DAC Days when we were still at Dutch Valley, one of the first years that I was involved, and she has started at the bottom and worked her way to the top, to the pinnacle of her industry. And I've always said, and I've talked to you people before, if I was ever to get in something else besides the quarter horse industry, it would have been the racing. It's exciting, it's competitive, and I still enjoy it every day. My wife and I spent time at her ranch in Ocala that is just beautiful. I can't describe it. When I walked in there that morning, my wife and I had goosebumps. They were training thoroughbred colts on the track. She took us up, spent time at the track with her, and just to see where she was. Years ago, I was at Gulfstream and spent time there. I've been to Saratoga and seen there, and to see where she's come, or where she was, and how far she's came. And we talked about work and your team that you surround yourself with. I watched her team work all day, bringing horse after horse up there to the track, all of them prepped and prepared perfectly. They looked magnificent. They could have went in a show ring and showed their hair coats and the way they looked. I was honored to be able to spend time with her. Not every day you can spend time with somebody that has just won one of the Triple Crown races in the world, and for her to win the Belmont was unbelievable. The only problem was I couldn't be there. We had plans to go on to California and watch again, and mishap happened, so the horse wasn't able to compete there. But we've watched her grow. My sister Tina, when she was a sales rep in Florida many years ago, she started sending out mass emails just random horse farms, horse people, horse-related people, and kept sending them. And next thing you know, lo and behold, this gal replies to her email and said, maybe there's something to this information. I would like to have more information. So over the years, time went by. That happened in February. They started communicating, and then November of that same year, back in 2008, she received a phone call and met with my sister, and then we brought Tanya on board, and for the next month, they worked together, figuring out what products to use in her feed program. And finally, then in December of that year, it all started back in February, then in December of that year, she placed her first order of colt grower. And I've told people that was kind of our in to the thoroughbred industry, all through colt grower. And I don't want to steal any of her thunder or talk, but just one product got us into the industry that we end up having a gal that was the first woman ever in the history of our Triple Crown races, Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. And she was the first lady to ever, and only lady to ever do it. And we're fortunate enough to have her come here and speak, take the time out of her busy schedule. And I always thought that, I had a busy schedule, but when you do something like she's done, her phone's ringing constantly, so I know how busy she is. And just her whole program, I've heard her talk about how DAC has been a big part of her success and her whole program. She pays attention to every fine little detail. And there was a time early on when she started working with us, I'm like, man, I sure hope we can keep up with her needs. She's a pretty needy gal. And she's very particular, and everything is so precise. And I thought, we're going to. That's my kind of person. That's me. You guys that were in a warehouse last night, you know how it's kept spotless. To her ranch in Ocala was just, it's like you drive in, trees surround the driveway, and you go out and it's a big, beautiful track. And the barns, everything's manicured. I knew it would be that way. It's just, I had literally goosebumps. And again, we are so fortunate to have Jenna Antonucci, the first lady to ever win a Triple Crown race. And I'm gonna let a slide presentation go here, and then Jenna will speak to us.
I'm very fortunate to be here, and thank you all for taking time out of your lives and giving me time that is so precious to all of us. And yes, life is busy, but life is busy for all of us. And very different ways for every single person. So thank you all for having me, and to the entire Jacobs family for always being so generous and support and thought and prayer and kindness. And it is absolutely an honor to have been part of this family for a very long time. Tina and I were chuckling back there when Randy gave that timeline. I'm like, man, I sounded like an indecisive woman. Jeez. You gonna court me for that long, Tina? I'm so sorry. But it was for the reasons that Randy stated. It was because the details matter. And in caring for our horses, like we do on any capacity, yes, we were blessed to do an amazing thing last year. But how we got there was through the foundation of all the work that we do as a team and all the details. And that's why DAC has always been such an important part for me in our program. And understanding why and what and asking the questions. And just like Tanya referred to earlier in her talk about, why is that horse doing that? Why is it behavioral? And I always chuckle because I get the bad horses. I get the quirky horses. And my fiance who's here with me, I always tell him, like, oh, another one found me. Here we go. Because that gray pony that won those races for us last year was just as quirky and temperamental as the rest of them can be. So then I started taking a breath and I'm like, why are they finding me? And they're finding me because I'm willing to ask the questions. And I'm willing to figure out what is making them behavioral, what is making the other person not be able to figure it out. Or when a horse comes to me, careful with this one. This thing will strike at you, it'll come and get you, it's really aggressive. Thanks. I think, wait a second, buddy, you're not that mean. That's weird. Wait a second. You want to do the job. Why? Why were you that way for them, but you're this way for us? And I would challenge all of you guys and ladies that have had that situation. Why did a horse not work for someone else, but they worked for you? For me, number one, hind gut. Number one. The first thing I do with any horse that comes to my barn that I haven't had the opportunity and privilege to raise is we go after their hind gut fast and furious. And I'm not talking pharmaceuticals with GastroGuard, because that's not going to make it to the hind gut. That might quiet your tummy. But for me, it's hind gut number one. And like Tanya referred to earlier, I still have blacksmiths, no matter where we are. Florida, Kentucky, New York, California. My God, your horse's feet just grow. It's the winter time. We're not supposed to be growing right now. What do you guys do? Like, oh, all this, all that. DDA has been the foundation of my feeding program since day one. I mean, besides colt grower. Because I understood how important the hind gut was. I know if I'm not doing some of this stuff right, the rest of me doesn't feel so good. It's no different for the horses. If they're not doing that stuff right, they're not going to give you what they have. And what we do is so extenuous and so demanding. We train so much, and then we go, okay, you're a grazing creature, I want you to go live in that box. Be happy in the box. God made you to graze, but you're going to stand in that box for us, and you'll be fine. And how many times do we see people not adapt their feeding program to understanding that they are a grazing animal? And so what can I do to most closely mimic Mother Nature? And so obviously good forage. I'm a little bit of an unusual one, shocking, I know. We feed hay cubes, straight alfalfa. That's the base of my program. Whether we're doing foal mares to retired horses, because for me, I need consistency no matter where we are. So that is something that works for us. It makes some people uncomfortable, and that's fine. But for me, understanding what I gain out of alfalfa for gut health, balancing pH and stomach, is partially why and what allows me to focus more on hind gut health. And so DDA, I think, has always been our kind of nugget, our secret that we can keep our kids ahead of everybody else. And then it was, how many, raise of hands, the first thing you think of on a thoroughbred is they all look skinny. Ribby, little light on the top line, okay? Rides them crazy. Feed your horses. We can't him to do and do and do and not have anything to draw off of, right? Because what do we burn then? We burn muscle. Well, that's dumb. We want you to run faster. We want you to run further. And we want you to burn your muscle because we're not giving you enough fat. Well, that's just dumb. And so that's when we started really leaning into and understanding why the oil that DAC provides is just next level. And I put it up against any oil in the product every day of the week. My ulcer is watching programs walk down the shed road with our corn oil. Glug, 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 glug. Oh, why? And I asked the why. Not as a rep or not as, because I'm blessed to be involved with DAC, because I'm curious to the why. That's what we've always done. What does that mean? That's what we've always done. But that's where a lot of things happen, and that's where I think pushing the envelope to do better and to evolve and building that team around you is so important, and challenging that. Why have we always done it? Because that was all that was available to us before, and as society has evolved, education has evolved, and everything else, we have learned to do better, so why not do better by our horses so they can do better for us? So that's why blue and oil both became a huge part of what we do, and not just because it made them shine and made it pretty, which it does, but because it gave them more resources. If you went to an athlete and said, how do you eat? They're not lining up with a Mountain Dew and 8 Snickers bars. Well, me giving a whole, can of corn to a thoroughbred would be about the equivalent. And so my focus has always been protein, fat, fiber, and I try and stay away from a lot of the carbs and sugars. Which brings me to electrolytes. Another one of my bane of my existences. Sugar. So many electrolytes on the product have what in them? Dextrose. What's dextrose? Sugar. Like you're feeding your horse straight sugar. That's not what electrolytes are for. So the idea of finding a supplement and product to support cellular health and hydration, because it's such a demand, even for all your cart horses, hot roads, and having to go through all the stresses of performance and output. So important. Where are we going? Can we go somewhere? Just kidding. So those are things that are very important for me in my program and how we've built it out over the years in the core. When we feed growing mares, they're breeding and doing, they're on the same program, PDA, oil. All of our young horses and growing horses are on coal grower. We have found over year after year after year, good bone. We radiograph X-ray early because horses that are going to sale, so good bone quality is so important for us. And I just have found year over year over year, it is, I could probably prove it out statistically if I took the time, how good horses develop in the product. So that's the why and the how we got to do that. A little about how I got to do that. I don't know, a little insane, I guess, or enough stubborn. No wasn't an option, so started riding when I was 3.5 years old, and I was that annoying kid of, I want to go do that. I want to go do that. My mom finally caved, and it just started. And I was very blessed to be surrounded by amazing women growing up that ran their own business, taught kids how to ride, let us be barn brats and run around barefoot and do all the things that kids should do growing up. And as I grew older and had a hunger to learn more, to understand more, thoroughbreds became my vein, and got to reteach a lot of thoroughbreds that were no longer racing how to go do other jobs, whether it was a trail horse, a pasture pet, a show horse. And then I was like, why are these horses so backwards? How come when I'm getting them when their racing careers are done, I pull left and they think right? Like, this doesn't make sense. So with that, I said, well, I'm going to go learn how it starts. I want to figure this out. How does this become this? And that's when I got bit. I loved the speed. I loved how fast they learned. I loved how they would give you everything if you didn't lie. And I also learned that in that first season, were people not listening. We were in a huge program, fanciest horses in the country. I was very blessed to be around it. And I was like, but this filly needs some more time. Nope, we gotta go. She's gotta go to the track here in 2 months. She's not gonna make it to the track. Oh, she'll be fine. So you learn so much in what doesn't work as much as what does work. And some of the hardest questions I've had to answer through our success over this last year is, who's your mentor? Horses, really. It's not about all the people. My job is to listen, and be quiet, and observe, and pivot and shift. Why isn't that horse eating? We have a, Tanya will appreciate this. We have an above the straw, below the straw conversation. Well, I don't bet on the straw. If the manure's, getting below the straw, we have a problem. But I look at poop every day of my life. I'll be like, what are you looking at? Oh, I just want to look at how the poop was. Because it tells you so much. How much grain is in that poop? Because it shouldn't be that much. If there's too much grain in that poop, I know that sucker's not digesting right. So what do I have to fix? So for me, it's always been about listening more than talking, which is ironic because I'm up here talking. And making sure that we pay attention to those details like Randy was mentioning. Because every one of those details is so much more important than anyone's mouth. That rider, oh, that horse felt like it was getting out today, or it was a little this, or there was a shift. They might not know what they're talking about, but their little something gives me something to go and peel back and figure out the why. And so all of those parts have been part of my journey in developing my team over the years and building it with foundational blocks that are imperative. And yes, DAC has been one of those blocks. And I can promise you I have been run up by every company out there. Our product is better. Really? Where's your science? What do you mean? If your product is better, prove it out to me. I'll listen. I'm very reasonable. I'm not going to yell at you and tell you no. If you feel your product is better than this product, prove it out. I promise they don't come back. They never do. Mm-hmm. So I'm not being rude. I'm just saying I've done my work. Don't come at me, because that's what they're doing, right? Our product. Okay, then prove it out. Look at the shine on that horse. Great. How's the horse doing? Because we can all fake shine them. Probably one of the number one compliments we get. And I hear it often. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of our team for it. My grooms, my hot walkers, my 4 men, 4 women, my assistant. Your horses are so shiny and they carry so much weight. Well, duh. You're supposed to. But the focus on the health of the horse and listening to the horse. And there's times that Fiona and I will bump heads on something. I'm like, why are we putting a hay bag in front of that horse? They have their cubes, they're fine. Oh, because someone will go by and yell at them, and I don't want them to yell. I'm like, okay. It's finding the balance, but her listening to that horse is the most important thing. The team listening to that horse. If I have a groom that comes to me, this horse is doing this, those little details. And so everyone's talked about today in every conversation, and I talked about it last night at the open house, read the room. And you guys walk into a prospective new client or existing client, and you're trying to open their eyes to what that can bring to the table and who and what. Read the room. Even if you can't sell them that day or tell them about a product that day, look at their walls. Look at their horses. Find out about the little details. It's about the little details. The details is what's going to get you in the barn. Go by their feed room. What is around? What's their base grain? Build off of their base grain. I know that grain, because I've done my job, is missing this, this, and this. And if I can supplement in the pieces that they're missing, I know it's going to move their horse forward. And not only is it going to move their horse forward, it's going to be more economical for them because they can feed less because their horses are digesting it more efficiently. I know for a fact, because feed companies tell me this everywhere we go, I feed less than almost every other trainer at the racetrack. Figure that out. My rate of feed is lower, and trust me, we throw it to them. I'm Italian, we like to eat, so you just keep feeding. Every one of them has said the same thing. Our feed rate is lower than everybody else's. And I 100% attribute it to why? My gut. We are making sure our horses are being as efficient and healthy as possible, and and digesting what we are feeding them. And so for us, nutrition is the #1 core fundamental foundation of what we do and why we do it. The racing side, why do you do it? And there's often times when people ask, you're out to dinner or you're socializing, they don't know what I do. What do you do? And it's like, oh, I'm in the horse business. Because so many people are negative to what I do, the thoroughbreds. Oh, there's this that happens, everything bad that happens. And sometimes you just don't have it in you to deal with it. I'm very proud of what we do and who we are, and how we all steward the health and well-being of every horse, no matter their job. But I do it because I love it. I actually was having a conversation the other day with Manny, my fiance's eldest son, and he said, why did you go into business for yourself? I'm crazy. That's why. Why horses? I said, same answer. Same answer. I said, but he goes, why'd you pick horses? I said, well, I didn't. You picked me. That sounds like so cliche, right? Like, come on. But they did. I could do other things. I'm capable, a brain, but I love it. I must love not sleeping. I must love worrying incessantly. That's what we do. I love it. It's a lifestyle. We're blessed to do it. They give us so much. And my commitment to doing this many years ago was, it didn't matter how many horses I had the ability to train or the opportunity to train. They just wanted to steward the best possible outcome for whoever came through our hands. And so, yes, we were blessed with Archangelo. Amazing. My favorite question, there's been a couple favorite questions over that. What was it like to win the Breeders' or the Belmont? And to be the first woman? I was like, well, I didn't enter the race because I was a woman. It didn't change my life. And I've always been very careful about goal setting. My goal has always been to watch my team thrive. Number one, to watch my team accomplish that. I'm not a big crier. That will make me cry every time. To watch people that commit their lives to these horses, to go win a Belmont. But there was a funny video that America's Best Racing did. It was Fiona and I walking. Fiona and I have been working together for almost 15 years. We kind of don't even want to say it's longer than 15 years anymore because that means we're just getting older. And I said to her, we're walking through the tunnel, going up to the paddock for the Belmont, serious face. Serious face, you're not allowed to have fun right now. You have to be serious right now. But watching the team have that amazing opportunity to accomplish this and then come back and do the Travers, yes, there's always naysayers in life. But I think my opportunity to win the Belmont was because we were able to implement all of these foundational blocks along the path. It was just getting that opportunity to show. We knew what we were doing all along as far as putting the horse first, making sure they were healthy as possible, checking all the boxes. We just hadn't gotten one that was fancy enough yet. And so for us, were you surprised? No. We just needed opportunity. The only thing that really messed up for me is I couldn't stay quiet behind the scenes anymore. That was the hardest part for me, this whole thing, is I love being able to sit behind the team and behind the horses and let everyone be their best version of themselves. If you want to be a groom, I want you to be the best groom possible. If you want to be a rider, I want you to be the best rider possible. I didn't care what anyone on the team wanted to do as long as they were fully thriving and finding their best foot. So becoming the first woman to do it wasn't a title that I was necessarily prepared for. Because as I told you about earlier, my first 15, 18 years in the horse world was driven by women. So it didn't make any sense to me where it was like, oh, well, you're in a man's world now in the thoroughbreds. Okay, what does that mean? It just didn't make sense to me. What does my gender, or anyone's gender, have to do with their exceptional skill set and attention to detail and wanting the best for their team and their horses? And so I've always said, no matter what, the horses accomplish. My job is to stay out of the way, hang onto those ponytail strings as long as I can, and not screw it up. So that took a lot of reflection afterwards and after these last several months. And I probably would tell you the most thing that I'm grateful for is having the opportunity to speak, but to speak to young girls. To watch little girls curious now about what we do. It's like, oh, okay. It's not just a little pony kid anymore. No, don't do that. We had the opportunity to go to an all-girls school in Nashville, Tennessee, and to watch those kids just, their arms were gonna fall off of questions. It was so cool. But really cool questions, not ones that you would think of. What's it like running a business as a woman? How old are you? What's right for that question? What's it like being a woman in a mostly male industry? What adversities have you had in growing business? And so those were very profound for me to see young women asking those questions still, because it wasn't an optic I ever looked through growing up. The women that I was able to watch and do and didn't even know it, and it took until after the Belmont to take time to reflect upon why does it not resonate with me? And trust me, network coverage wanted it to be David and Goliath. A girl takes on the boys. I'm like, no, that's not my story. My story is this horse, and it's his story. And I appreciated one major thing before the Belmont. Kurt Menefee, who is a sports newscaster, mostly for football, he was doing coverage that day. And he had come earlier in the week just to get to know everybody that was running and understand, have backstory, so when they're filling all that time on TV, he knew what to talk about. And I told him the same thing. I said, Kurt, with all due respect, I do not want to be the female this, the female that. I said, I understand I'm a woman, I'm happy to be a woman, but what we're doing is about my team, about the details of what we do, and about this bigger picture. And he goes, I understand. It's because I never wanted to be the black, blah, 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 to do this. The black, this, to do that. I'm just Jenna Antonucci, and I happen to train racehorses for a living. We happened to do some pretty cool stuff last year. The overnight success of 20 plus years grinding it out, that's my favorite. Oh, you're an overnight success, really? Just happen to sleep through the night. There's so many little details, and I don't want anyone napping. So I do want to save some time for anyone who's questions, later on. But the biggest thing for me that I cannot reiterate enough is the nutrition, how important it is, but also the people behind the nutrition. And it is absolutely core to who we are, what we do, and having the availability to Tanya, and yes, Tina, 15 years? Have we figured out? My goodness. 15 years. 15 years of telling other people no, because I believe in the people behind this product, and behind the ability to keep asking the questions and not rest in the laurels of, well, that's how we did it, and that's how the product was when I took the company over, so we're just going to keep it that way. For Tanya to push, and the teams to push to find new and evolving technology, and evolving nutrition, why horses absorb things differently. That's why this is my choice. Because I know I don't have to, consistency of product, I don't have to question it. It's not something I have to worry about. Hey guys, what do we hear? What do we hear? And there'll be phone calls. Guys, I've got one that's doing this and that. Where are we with this? Hey, I need to change my base grain. I do feed period. I never thought I would. It's a whole other conversation. I don't have time for it. But when I swap grain companies, first call. Tanya, Tina, how do we make sure we don't have any holes in the program? High demand, right? Do you know about how many calories we exert on race day? Does anyone kind of know that number? Over 30,000? 30,000 calories. Now how am I going to get 30,000 calories in a horse with a stomach? You want to put your graphic back up? stomach that's this big. I am screwed, excuse me. And that's real. And so that's where it's backing into it. And as you guys are talking with people and, you know, the demand on cart horses, how many calories do they put out all day on average? How do we stay in front of that so that they're not eating that muscle, that they can carry enough flesh, keep their feet growing good? Show horses, same thing. I think it's backing into understanding the client that you're walking into. What is the horse's maximum output? How do I make sure we're feeding, that their base feed program is supporting that, and that I can make it shine and make it more efficient, more economical? Oh, my favorite. I can't afford to feed supplements. Can't afford to be slow either. And that's where it's finding the balance, right? So if I tell you that you're going to be able to feed a bag of 50-pound grain more efficiently, get more out of it, and you're actually going to start feeding less, there's no way. Give me the opportunity to prove it out to you. That's what we did. Prove it out. Stand behind it. I will give you product. Give me 3 horses. 2 horses. Don't give me 1. One's not fair. Because you're going to give me the biggest a-hole you have in the barn. That's just going to, you know, see, told you it wouldn't work. Give me 3. And let me prove it out to you. Because I know I can feed it better, I know it'll look better, and I know it's going to perform better. Let me prove it out with you. That's my biggest recommendation, is walking in, understanding the client, understanding what they need, and addressing it. And if the financial answers is why, and you're not encouraging them to go feed a lesser grain at that point, but you may be able to open up opportunities for them to feed a grain that might be more affordable for them, so that they can plug in this piece that now allows that horse to step up to the next level because they're absorbing their nutrition in a better, more efficient manner. No one's sleeping yet. Yes. We did good. I do want to leave some time for you guys if you have any questions for me. But I'm, again, most grateful that you guys have allowed me to be here to share time with you. And please ask away. No questions too awkward. Trust me, I've gotten some doozies over the last year. But thank you all for having me.
Just real quick, tell them your story of Arcangelo when he came to your barn until present, or what he's doing today.
Can I edit it a little bit? You're not allowed to use all that
You've never edited anything else.
I know, but we have a very nice group of people here that might not appreciate all the color. Arcangelo did come to us as a 2-year-old. He had been started up in the Pennsylvania area and had been started, and when he came to us was naughty. He was naughty. He had very unique ways of thinking. He always thought the ladies were pretty. I said, buddy, listen, this is a really simple equation. You do this, you get this. If you don't do this, you don't do that. It's very simple. But Arcangelo came to us, he was originally, for those that don't know, he had 1 testicle way up there. Never descended. And he was behavioral. Never had a lame day in his life. Sound, good, feeling cold. Too good, that was the problem. Naughty. And we had a long talk with the owner, and my business partner said, can't we just geld this horse? Never gonna happen. Sire was dead. He was well regarded. This horse had a huge family pedigree. Thank God they can't read. Because if he knew what he was expected to do, he would have been like, I'm out. And so we took some steps along the way to say, listen, let's wait, let's try this, let's try that. As you know, we have new regulations, which I think is also important as a outside to how you present product to people with HISA. We can't feed this, we can't treat that, we can't use this and that anymore. So colts or geldings can no longer get any estromate, regimate, any type of hormone that would be given to a filly or a mare. And I said, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna Hail Mary this thing. We're gonna regimate him, we're gonna give him this, we're gonna give him that. We're gonna see if it makes any change in his personality. If it does, we're taking out that testicle. What? I said he can still breed. If we're right, and he's talented, he's good. He can still have a totally normal breeding career. But where that testicle is sitting, it is bothering him. Didn't show up through lameness. It was completely behavioral. Remember that conversation a little while ago? Why do they all find me? Because I'm willing to listen. And his tell was in behavior. Walking on his hind legs. Oh, there's a filly over there. I'll leave my rider here and head that way. Oh yeah. It was a lot. So that's what we did. We took out the high testicle, different horse. He started to focus and grow and listen, a little bit narrow. He started to broaden. And so for us, it was just, and there are other people that will take out a testicle because of behavioral things, but they're fully descended. His was not. So that was how we got to that decision with him. We went on then. The owner did not want to run until he was a 3-year-old. Now mind you, I'm managing a horse that's climbing the rafters, wants to breed everything in sight, and just in general is like, ah, where's life? And I'm like, crap, I gotta keep his feet on the ground for a year? There's no way. So we brought him to Saratoga, got him to go see the world, train on the big tracks, be around all the company, go see everything. And then we brought him back down to South Florida and started him when he was just a 3-year-old. My initial jockey wasn't available. We went on a jockey that rode him his first 2 races. That jockey chose to take off of him for his 3rd race. The original jockey that I wanted ended up back on him, and then we won 4 in a row. Peter Pan, Belmont, his maiden race, fastest mile that winter. So much so that people are like, oh, time has to be wrong. I'm sorry, if it was that guy trainer, would you be saying that? We don't know the answer, that's fine. You learn not to take things too personally in this industry. And then he came back and won the Peter Pan. That must have been a fluke. Okay. And then I got railed on. Ooh. Railed, I just literally, no social media, I shut the world off. I'm like, too much white noise, no thank you. We were gonna train from the Peter Pan to the Belmont. Well, there's no way. The girl can't train one to go 1.5 miles. The horse hasn't even gone 2 turns yet. So in our world, 1-turn races, 1 turn. 2-turn races, 2 turns. So the 1.5 miles, I'm going from a 1.125 miles, 1-turn race to a 2-turn 1.5 miles in the test of the champions. Totally normal. No problem. We won that, which was crazy. It was. I'm not gonna lie. And then we bypassed everything leading up to the Travers. Can't do that. It's too much time. The reason I didn't get beaten the Belmont was because the 3-year-old champion had a long layoff, so he wasn't ready to run that far. Okay. We went to the Travers. It was a little bit shorter of a race, but we did it with an extended amount of time in the middle. Won that, which was pretty amazing. More so because it validated a team and it validated the horse, right? We went from the mile race. There's no way. Oh, it's just a fluke of a race. Then we won the Peter Pan. Oh, he got lucky, he got the bob, you know. Then we won the Belmont because that other champion wasn't really ready yet. Now what you got? Then he won the Travers. And then it all stopped. They stopped making excuses for his success. What I've always found is when people make excuses for other people's success, it's not about the person, it's about them. It makes them more comfortable talking about you. And that's fine. Let them do them, you do you. And then he won the Eclipse Award, which was pretty crazy, right? You see those cute little trophies, I'm like, oh, you know, I don't have enough horses to train. There's no way we're ever gonna win an Eclipse Award. Not because I didn't think we could, because we don't have the opportunity. I don't train 300. I have 0 desire to train 300 horses. I want to be a horse trainer, not a horse manager. And then the girl in this gray pony became the 3-year-old champion of the industry. Now mind you, if we breed 18,000 horses a year, he was the #1 3-year-old for that year. Like that's like, that was pretty cool. We had a good time, I'm not gonna lie. fun group, everyone appreciated it, but it was a team. The team was there to appreciate what this horse had done for all of us, and his owner knew who everyone in that team was by name. And that's what made it different and so much more gratifying and fulfilling. I'm a huge one on being careful on how you set goals for yourself, because if you set goals by other people's standards, you might find yourself short. I don't want to define my success by how someone else creates theirs. But I can also tell you, winning a race doesn't change my life. Randy and I talked about this thing yesterday. Yes, winning that race was like the thing, obviously. But I had to really assess that within myself several years ago. Because this industry is measured by your percentage. Well, you must suck because your win percentage isn't high enough. No, actually, I'm pretty good. But I'm willing to respect my owners and my horses and the journey that they're on, and not compromise that owner's plan because I need to have a certain percentage to check a box or some random dude sitting over there that tells me I can't train a horse. And it takes time to build that. You find the people behind you that say, thank you for hearing what we want to accomplish and giving our horse a chance to evolve and grow and take a couple of losses to find the win. I can promise you that I've been another trainer with that horse. They would have run that horse for a claiming price first out, and his journey would have been a completely different journey. And so it's finding a team, finding the people behind you to carry that forward. Even when it feels like you're running left and right and you just want to run straight. But Archangela did retire. We were aiming to the Breeders' Cup. We were very blessed. We found a minor, thank God, minor injury. It was a very small start of a condylar fracture starting in the hind limb. It looked like he had tagged a wall. Anyone that's had a horse, tag a wall, and the horse comes out with that little stinginess. The stinginess wouldn't resolve and wouldn't resolve. And I was like, when you're in Breeders' Cup time, the lights and the cameras and everyone's blinking and staring at you. We just ran out of time. Fortunately, we had imaging at our disposal sitting right there, and literally found the very start of one of the hind ankle. And I am so immensely grateful we did, because if anything would happen to that horse on the racetrack, bleh. And so he has now started his stallion career. He's at Lanes End in Kentucky. And we have several mares in foal already, so I'm sure we'll have plenty of naughty boys coming in 2025. No doubt we will have plenty of naughty boys in 2025.
Tell them what the Eclipse Award is for those of you that don't know it.
The Eclipse Awards would be like the Oscars and the Emmys and your Pro Bowl. You know, it's the crowns, the top of each division for the year. So your top 2-year-old, your top 3-year-old, your top older horse, your top turf horse, and it crowns for the entire year. It's voted upon. So I managed to not piss off enough people to get their votes.
Is it voted on by your peers or the general public?
Peers. The only, they do a moment of the year that we were running for the Belmont. We had a really cool horse last year that Belmont campaigned. His name was Cody's Wish. He was named after a young man that was born with a disability that ended up passing literally the day after he won the Breeders' Cup. He was my vote too. Selfishly, yes, but Cody's story was pretty remarkable. But it's a peer and industry-driven aggregate. We were the only 3-year-old to win multiple grade 1s, and I believe the only 3-year-old that won 4 in a row last year.
You mentioned that the owner made the decision that they didn't want to run him until he was a 3-year-old. And obviously you listened, had they said, Jenna, do whatever you want, and you got him earlier. Hindsight's 2020, you probably would go back and say, yeah, he wasn't ready until he was 3. But do you think that made a huge impact on the outcome and you run him as a 2-year-old? Not to say for sure, but would it have been different?
Tanya's asking, for anyone that didn't hear, if we had started earlier, if the owner wasn't so adamant about us running as a 3-year-old.
Why were they at? What was that?
He just was so focused on it. He wanted to go to Breeders' Cup 2024.
Okay.
Managing a horse that's walking on his hind legs, wants to breed everything in sight, and I can't run him for how long? Oh, God. But he would have had a lot of pressure to likely go through the entire Triple Crown season. Had I won the first or second race, he would have also experienced the same pressure to go earlier. Physically, do I think he was ready? I do. Mentally, he was just an immature kid. And so he learned to be a man as far as a racehorse the day that he won his first race. And you can visually see it. Coming down the stretch, it just clicked for him. Where he's like, oh, see ya. Literally, you watch him get low, and you watch him just find a gear that was just, my goodness, there it is. At that point, it was game on.
How long does it take to find the right rider?
Still looking. The question was, how long does it take to find the right rider? You know, played a lot of golf in my day. Hang with me here for a second. Once you hit a golf ball, like, you hope you did everything right in your swing when you made impact, and you hope it goes the right direction. That's kind of what it feels like the leg of a jockey. You just kind of hope it all goes the right way. For me, it's really about personality and energy, the vibe I get off of people, not to sound too, but I've got to feel it. Javier was the right rider for this horse because he was patient, he was a little bit older, he was a little bit, how he's built really fit this horse the right way. But it's something Fiona and I go round and round about, not in a bad way. Obviously now we have 2-year-olds getting prepared to run, start running in April. It's finding just the right vibe, the right personalities. If I need something that needs to be ridden like it's stolen, I'm gonna ride this guy. If I need something that needs a little more finesse, I'm gonna look at that guy or gal. So it just totally depends on the horse and their personality. I think that's probably one of the most important parts of really understanding what you're training and who you're training. To give them the best opportunity. And there's sometimes, I'm not a big one to let jockeys breeze horses in the mornings. I don't need to be a trainer, I just need to be a jockey. And because every time you put a jockey on the board, they come back, well, I think you need to do this. I think you need this equipment. I think you need to do this. Maybe you need to do that. Thanks. Appreciate it. We won't be riding him on this horse. And so it's just finding a balance. Yes, ma'am.
When you were taking in thoroughbreds and retraining them to do other events, did you find that their problems were mostly caused by training technique, or did you feel it was more nutritional?
The question was, when we were redoing a lot of thoroughbreds for their next careers, did I find their issues to be training or nutrition? Almost every single one of them was caused by human error in some capacity. Whether it's, which is, if it's not understanding nutrition, it's not understanding the horse, basic health care. Obviously some coming in, they had injuries. The biggest reason, when I started with DAC, I was not at the racetrack. I think that's a really important fact that I failed to mention. I was legging horses up and getting horses ready for the track and sending them to other trainers, foaling mares, raising young stock, getting them prepared for sales, fixing horses and sending them back to the track. I know I mentioned that. I mentioned it twice for a reason. Because I was tired of watching those horses go to the track and get hurt again, knowing that they were being trained by an idiot. Why didn't you manage that? And so I think a lot of the horses that we have been able to retrain, I'm a huge proponent of, I don't think Aftercare is a sad song. It is not a Sarah McLachlan song. They are not pouting in the corner, and they do not feel sorry for themselves. You do have extreme cases that are very disheartening, but for me it's next care. It's just the next part of their career. What are they going on to do next? I famously talk about the idea of, we have all these wonderful people that bring horses in from Europe. They're so proud of how much money they spend. Am I the judge? I'm gonna bring this really fancy warm blood here, and it's gonna go be a dressage horse, and it's gonna be the next coming of. Okay. Look at this really fancy horse that was gonna be a dressage horse, but now it jumps, and it still is expensive. What happened to the dressage intention? Oh, it wasn't very good at that. Okay. Well, because my thoroughbred wasn't really good at their racing job because they were slow, doesn't mean they're not great at their next career. And so I think as humans, we have, we panicked on the aftercare and the next part of thoroughbred careers. And now I think we're riding the ship of explaining that it's okay if they're not racing anymore because they're so diverse in what they can do in the next part of their careers. But almost every single one of them, human. Human. Wow. I can't give you all my secrets. I'm a huge, we talked about the electrolytes, and I cannot understate the electrolyte conversation enough. Overstate, understate, state it, however you want to word it. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes barns that feed electrolytes make. Because they're just not feeding electrolytes. It's like, here's your couple little grains of, salt and potassium. Here's your sugar. We'll drink more. Yeah, it's a lot of sugar. So electrolyte, I think, is one of the, if anyone was looking for hey, how can I crack the code to get into somebody's barn, it is the easiest challenge you can make without making the trainer feel stupid. Have you ever really looked at what's in your electrolytes? Because this guy came and sold it to you because it tastes like apple. What? It doesn't taste like apple. It's salt and sugar. Stop. It smells like apple, but stop. But I think electrolytes, oil, and shared a story with Randy and Tina about oil. There was a thoroughbred trainer in New York. Nice enough man, assistant fine. The assistant was, oh, we've tried that oil before. It made our horses bleed. What? I can have a loud face at times, I've been told. So sometimes I have to be mindful of that. And I was like, oh my God. You have a what? Oil who? Yeah, we used to use it. They look good, but it made them bleed. What? How? Really? How come? Tell me about that. That's interesting. Right? Because how do you sit there and go, what in the living God are you talking about? That's the most retarded statement I've ever heard in my life. That did not come out of my mouth. I've learned to filter. It's challenging in itself. But when I looked at their horses, I saw light coverage. They looked like they were gastric behind. For me, I can just, as they tie into the stifle area, just on a thoroughbred especially, they just get really tight through that area. You can see those striations through your skin and the muscles. It just gets, you can just see it. Where those horses, they just hold. They may be doing, showing. And then you watch them start to get curvy behind, right? A little hunter's bump. A cute little bump back there that's not supposed to be there, where their SI connects right in front of their back. And I just think horses start to get like this. Because they're trying to get everything really still, quiet. And I looked at him and went, okay. Because I knew there was nothing I could say to that assistant in that moment that was going to pivot any of it. But looking at his horses that were walking on their hind legs and being behavioral on top of what he said, I knew what the problem was, and it had nothing to do with the oil. The oil was probably the only thing helping them get through. But I moved on. So it's understanding those kind of challenges and when to walk away. But find your holes where you can absolutely jump in and say, I can just try this. Just try this. Did you know that oil, that DAC oil, blah, 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 blah. My best friend gets a product from other companies, always calls me for DAC oil. What about that company? It's too bad, she's given it a chance finally. She sees the difference. So, DDA, every horse. Every horse. Mares, weanlings, yearlings, 2-year-old, retired horses. Every horse life cycle in our program has DDA on board. The minute those foals start creep feeding, they're exposed to DDA. The minute they're eating on their own, they're getting cold grower. We feed cold grower all the way through until they leave to go to the track. So every horse in our program, all the way up to the Chula here, are exposed to cold grower, DDA, and oil. Oil too. Those are the three core of bringing our horses along. We use a lot of some of the calming supplements because we can. We don't have to worry about getting in trouble with all of our regulations. And then we sprinkle in some of the other products depending on demand and need, and obviously all the evolving stuff that Tanya and Tia has done with hindgut support. Something I also support on my feet side is jumping up and down about hindgut support. And I can promise you 90% of the other companies, they don't even know what to talk about with it. So ask for 3 horses.
What is your base grade, or what is good, or what is not, or what, is there something you feed or something you don't feed as far as?
I feed, it's not very fancy. My base grade is Purina 200, or race ready, and they're not doing the GT anymore. And they do have a hindgut support in there that works alongside with what we do with DAC. So I feed, and I challenged Purina the same way I challenged Tina and DAC. And I long said, there's no way I'm feeding my grain. It took me understanding and learning the why. But they were willing to prove it out to me through science. They were willing to prove it out through their research, through their quality control, all the same fundamental things that happen here. And that's what allowed me to move. But I believe in a feed that is as low in corn exposure as possible because I don't want nutritional spikes. I need sustainable energy that we can draw upon. And I think that's one of the huge things with the electrolyte too. We were talking last night about supporting horses pre-race and what we do because of demand and helping with lactic acid buildup. Anything that I can do to understand their biggest stress, how I can recover them from it is that's where we focus hardest on. But I do feed alfalfa cubes. Now, I'll give you the follow-up question that I always get to alfalfa cubes. Do they choke? No. Typically, if a horse is choking, that's secondarily to another problem. I'm not a DVM, PhD, any of those things. Just a horse girl. I've read a lot about it. Do you soak them? I don't want them fermenting before they get in their body. I need their body to do that in the hindgut. And I want that alfalfa to make their stomach happy way in the hindgut. I tried to make it as basic and as simple as possible. When they're grazing and moving and doing out in the wild, why does that work? What can I do in that 12 by 12 stall, hopefully it's 12 by 12, to mimic as much as I can out there? Yes?
Are you training anybody for the Triple Crown this year?
We're hopeful. We have a fancy filly that we're hoping that she is as fancy as she's trying to be. Her name is Do-Gooder. Kind of a great name to get behind. So she's actually, we enter Saturday. We enter for the following Saturday for the Gulfstream Park Oaks, hoping that she'll stand for a ticket to the Kentucky Oaks. And we may or may not pull a Hail Mary on a colt that we have by the name of Big Rich. And so we'll see what he tells us to do. He's a really cool horse. I just don't know if he's mentally ready to go do that. But we have some that are coming along, and even more excited for the 2-year-olds that are coming in now to be champions and 3-year-olds next year as well. Since I have the opportunity to take a handful of your entire life cycle, we see less leg deformities. I see better bone quality without a doubt in my horses, no doubt. Less OCD lesions, less sesamoid issues, 100% big, strong body, good growing. We just did a yearling inspection the other day. Geez, these things are really coming. 100%. Consistent nutrition. We're in Florida too, so you know I get to be soft. I don't know how you guys do all this cold stuff the whole time. But I'm a believer in getting horses into the warm as fast as possible, especially young horses. I want them spending more time growing and more energy growing than staying warm. Part of that is because in our world, our cycle is so short, right? We have such a strong set schedule. We sell weanlings, we sell yearlings, when we have 2-year-olds. We don't have that wiggle of, oh, okay, give it 6 months to go do. So for me, it's in the sunshine, but consistent, available nutrition from the onset, from lactating mares all the way through, I think is 100% why. What do I think has contributed the most to the success of my program? My team. No doubt. People that love horses and are just committed to them first. I always, every time, what's the best part about being a trainer? Being a trainer. But secondary to that is every time you call an owner, do you know how I start the phone call? Hey, so-and-so, how are you? No, your horse isn't dead. Everything's fine. Just wanted to call and catch up, fill you up, tell you what's going on. My team, no doubt. Surround yourself with good people. And you know, the quote that I said in that video to make sure no one was napping. If you can't find a seat at the table, make your own table. And I have been so very blessed. Yes. And that guy up there. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Speaking of Arcangelo, we saw him make that pivot to becoming a man of the racehorse and finding that high gear. He always breezed fast. We knew the gear was there. It was always like we pushed the red button one time. It was like, ooh, going up. I don't want to touch that for a while. It was there. He just had to get it there, here. It's probably the hardest thing about the Triple Crown is horses that have the ability, but they're just mentally not there yet. And having the constitution and the fortitude to say, we'd love to run the Derby because it's such an amazing opportunity, but this kid's not ready yet. Getting pulled off here. Tanya, what did you have?
Oh, I was going to ask whether there was, is there one thing, every horse teaches you something, every experience teaches you something, this experience, is there something that you're going to take away from this that you use future horses?
Has this horse taught me anything? I love sleep. It's definitely taught me that. I love being at home. It's taught me that. I love quiet and turning the white noise off. As far as a horse person, it just reinforced a lot. It reinforced putting the horse first. And that sounds cliche. It's not meant to be cliche on any means, by any means. But understanding if you do right by them, in return they do right by you. Period. Thank you, everybody.
Let's get one more round of applause, guys. What she didn't say was, and you know, somebody asked her what other products she feeds and stuff, is when she got to the warehouse yesterday, she got there at a decent time, and there was 2 pallets on the shelves, one being a 55-gallon drum of oil, headed out to one of the tracks where her horses are at. So she does very, very often, weekly, get products sent out to multiple different tracks where she's at. So thank you very much, Jenna. It's awesome. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I know a lot of our staff did. We were very excited to hear her speak. And I'm very excited to be able to work with her going forward and hopefully maybe get my way on the backside of the track a little bit and see some of that stuff behind the scenes. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break here and then roll right back in. So we'll do a 10-minute break and start going again.